MSPs need to track and manage various revenue streams from their business. It's obviously very critical. How do you think that MSPs are doing this today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big dilemma that they face, really. You've got 50+% of MSPs' revenue is from solutions that they don't own. They're selling a recurring software solution, service, what have you. Sometimes it's bundled in as part of an all-you-can-eat offering. Sometimes it's part of, a security-focused bundle. And sometimes it is lined out line by line. And regardless of it, what we've heard over and over and over from MSPs is how difficult it is for them to track it. They don't truly know which clients are using which services, how much they're using of it. Am I compliant with my contracts? Do I have all of the solutions deployed to every client that is supposed to have it and the right number or quantity of each service? And it's a big challenge. What we're finding in conversations with MSPs that bundle it all in or have a single line item that they're selling to clients is they can't track what that cost base is of the service or bundle that they're delivering. They had that price at one point when they first partnered with all of these vendors and suppliers, and they chose their total buffer and margin that they wanted to apply on that total bundled cost. But over time, we get notices all the time that pricing has changed. It's gone up. There's a inflation, cost of living increase. There's sometimes your volume, as it increases, your pricing goes down. So you can be making more margin, but you're not aware of what your actual cost base is of it. So what we've done and been striving to do is pull together all of this usage information, all of this consumption information to help MSPs be able to visualize, see with clarity at near real time what they're using, what clients are using, and how everything is performing, irrespective of what they have in the PSA or in their QuickBooks or accounting package, which, as we know, is often just a representation of what they think they're supposed to be billing, but not what's actually being delivered at times.
No, that's true. There's so much guesswork, even for MSPs that have put the effort into having some of those things in place, that they're using their PSA or their accounting package to understand that. And yet they're only getting to maybe 75% of an understanding at best as to what they're actually spending and what their those revenue streams actually mean to the business.
Absolutely. I mean, what we saw from Synthesize over the last couple of years now being in market is how many MSPs came in to start using the platform to only realize I was under deployed across a whole bunch of clients. In many cases, I was over deployed in a lot of clients. And then the other one was I was deploying a service, or a service was deployed and being consumed and used by the client, but I was never billing for it, right? And when you look at the myriad of places and all the different partner portals and consoles that as an MSP I need to go to either log in and see which clients are listed, what they're using, or take a usage export from it and try to consolidate that. But it's all, there's no rhyme or reason, all these different columns, a bunch of manual effort to do it. And by the time I've got that report ready to go and look at it, it's probably 2 to 3 weeks out of date. So I don't know now what my technicians have deployed. I don't know what my sales team or account managers have sold and added in, or what's been changed here and what's in flux. The only thing that we know in IT is that things are always changing. It's such a dynamic world and landscape that without having near real-time access to that information in a standardized format and having so many different ways to be able to group, filter, sort, and arrange that information, you really are flying blind as an MSP.
So Colin, I think you can talk to just about any MSP and they will admit that there's probably lots of opportunity for them to be more profitable. They just really don't know how and where to start. What are some of the most common ways that MSPs are missing out on this profitability?
Yeah, I mean, the research is out there, Ryan, right? Whether you look at different industry reports by the major platform companies, if you look at the, Service Leadership Index and what they put out, half of this industry of MSPs is not profiting today. A quarter of those companies are actually losing money and a quarter of them are breaking even. That's a massive problem. And when you look into how MSPs deliver services, the types of services that they deliver, they are so ripe to be some of the most profitable businesses. They are the quintessential platform if you look at it. I go out and I acquire customers and I sell an initial service to them. IT support, IT advisory, consultation, whatever you want to call it, desktop support. And then I layer on and stack on top of that platform all these different services that I don't even need to own or necessarily deliver. I can stack on endpoint detection and response, email security, productivity with just M365 or Google. You add on all of your cybersecurity, all of your data protection and backup and business continuity, all of these things with pre-baked margins, or what should have pre-baked margins in them. The challenge comes in, Ryan, when they're looking at their business. Again, they're so muddied with the amount of data that they have. I would say the problem that MSPs don't have is not having enough data, not having enough information. The problem that they have is knowing how to look at it, where to look in it, and really what to do with it.
Yeah.
What sense to make of it. And when you look at it as a business, you don't traditionally have and haven't had as an MSP an opportunity to truly understand your volume with a channel vendor, or the true scale and spread of your business and opportunities for additional services into them. We walk conference event floors every year, all the time, and you see all the different vendors, 70 different vendors, 100 vendors. If you look at Canalys Research, hundreds of thousands of software and hardware vendors sell their wares and products and services through the IT channel today, growing to nearly $5 trillion. That's a lot of product being sent out. But what happens is, as you're adding in all these products, you often forget to look back or don't have it right in front of you. What's happening with all the products that you're delivering? What is your margin on those? Who is using those? How much time are you spending servicing and managing those services? And where are the redundancies in that? One big thing that we talk about in the industry all the time, backup and data protection. I mean, you can't walk around the corner without there being a backup or data protection company or vendor, right? And there's so many. Well, there's this idea that MSPs are running anywhere between 3 to 5 different backup vendors across their clients, whether that's something that they've inherited, solutions that they've had, there's some other retention schedules, or they're just trialing or trying different services out. But over time, what that's led to is this redundancy and lack of profitability. Now imagine being able to look at a single screen in real time to understand what's my total volume across all backup services. And then to break that down and see who are all the vendors I use and what's my volume with each of them, what's my spend with each of them, and how much revenue and profit am I making. Being armed with that information to now know if I was to go to the most profitable one, which should be glaringly obvious to me on that screen, I know how much additional volume I can offer and take to that vendor to phone them up and start negotiating a better volume discount there. Not only is that going to get me more profit on the straight resale and margin side, look at the standardizing that I don't have to have all these technicians that work with all these different backup softwares, have to manage credentials and different logins to all these different systems, check documentation all the time for which one are they actually running and using. There's all of this wasted time and effort that goes into managing a plethora of different solutions. But until you've had it laid out in front of you, you can't see that, right?
Yeah. No, that's an important point too. And I think MSPs have known for a long time that having some consolidation, some consistency, and reducing their stack and having that in place is great. But often it's just a matter of, do they even know what's out there? There's so many times where you're, as you said, using several different vendors for the same service that visibility, losing sight of that is just so easy. MSPs have so many things going on that they need that information brought to them. They're not going to find it by accident.
Yeah, well, much like any client would expect an MSP to walk in there for a QBR, fully informed about their business and what they're using and how they're doing and how they're performing and what their IT systems are doing. You should be armed the same way when you're walking into almost a quarterly business review with your vendor suppliers. They want to know how you're about to perform, what opportunity exists for you, everything else. If you're walking in there, you are in the most optimal position and state to be telling them, this is what my total opportunity is. This is how much volume I can bring. This is how much volume I'm delivering and how much that's increased over the last while. I know my worth to you now as an MSP. and I can use that information to get the best possible deal. And the vendors want that information too from you so that they know how to best support and enable and empower you to go get it. Because as everybody says, your success is our success. So you've got all of these opportunities to capture that. Now, as Gradient MSP with our billing module, we're no strangers to uncovering opportunities and missed revenue or whatever, right? We see thousands and thousands of dollars in MRR being uncovered from wasn't billing for a service entirely, hadn't reconciled for the last 6 months or in some cases 18 months, and I've been under billing by 30, 40 different nodes. And that all adds up over time. Now with a different solution where we're tracking a stack of solutions and all these different revenue streams, we can now start to identify which clients aren't consuming which services, right? Instead of going out looking for the next best thing, the best revenue generation opportunity, the best profit gain, or forget even trying to go out and what is, currently listed in 2 recent industry reports as the #1 challenge MSPs face is customer acquisition, new customer acquisition.
Yeah.
Well, all the research for decades has shown that it is 7 to 9 times more probable and more likely for you to sell something to an existing customer than it is to get a new one.
Absolutely.
Platform strategy. You have a set of clients, you have a stack of solutions. I don't need to stack more solutions on, I just need to increase the adoption across my stack. So if we can present to you as an MSP now exactly which clients aren't using which services, armed with the knowledge of how large each of those clients are because of other services they combine, and knowing what your cost and price points are, we can completely quantify these opportunities for you as an MSP, and in some cases look to double your revenue or at least double your profit just by making sure that your saturation point with your clients is on point.
Yeah. And every MSP knows this in the back of their head, that this is where they want to get to. They understand that this opportunity is there. If only they could have something to lay it out for them and give them an idea of how they need to approach this.
Yeah, as a concept, it's not rocket science, right? It's very basic. It's very simple, but that's where greatest success comes from, keeping things simple.
Right.
Right? But you don't know what you don't know, and you can't know what you don't see. Now being able to present that to them, making it very clear as day, we provide that opportunity to help them uncover it. And instead of just giving them more data and more things to look at, pairing that with actionable recommendations of which are their highest probable opportunities compared with the largest size opportunities. Am I going to go on a client-by-client basis knowing what each client is available to me an opportunity? Or am I going to barrel down on what I know is my most profitable yet underutilized service and do a full spread campaign on that to level up my profit, to level up my revenue, and grow the business the way it could be grown?
So Colin, let's talk about data overload, something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm an operations guy. Paralysis through analysis is one of my challenges I've had in the past too, but MSPs have all of this data and often they're overburdened with it. Talk a little bit about what that means and how they can take the value of this data and actually use it to make, actual business decisions.
Yeah, there is no short supply of data available to MSPs, from information they can get from their PSA, from information they can get from industry reports, industry surveys, their RMM, they're on and on and on and on. The problem has been a few things. One, when we look at stuff and you go back in time to when Gradient first launched and we came out with a data hygiene product for MSPs. If there's something we've learned over time through that data hygiene product and through what we've been doing with synthesized billing and gathering this information and showing it and helping MSPs, true up their billing practices and their billing processes, it's come very clear to us how dirty that data is, how much of a challenge that is. And a very popular phrase in our industry, but any kind of data-based industry, is garbage in, garbage out. What we also know is that MSPs don't trust the data that's in their PSAs. Look at the flood of interest we had when we launched our Tidy product way early on. Hundreds of MSPs bursting down our doors to come in and clean up their PSAs because they knew how dirty it was, how muddy it was. Years and years of just trials and attempts and different configurations all over the place. Now, you mix some dirty data with a bunch of different information and data coming to you from a bunch of different sources, and you're stuck with some very beautiful and powerful dashboards, but an issue with almost having too much information available from too many different sources that at times can often conflict with each other. Yeah. And then battled with, there's a growth and maturity of MSPs in how to run and operate businesses, but there is still a gap in what to do and how to interpret this data. What do I do with it, and what does it really mean? And in very siloed context, you can make very wrong decisions. What we're all about and what we're trying to do here is, by fashion, is standardizing data, eliminating and eradicating that opportunity for muddy data to come in. Anything that's not true can't enter our system, right? So if we gather our information in a consistent, standardized format, clean, straight from source of actual performance and delivery, we have an opportunity to present the cleanest, most high quality, and most uniform data set to MSPs that's really ever existed. Okay, we're not going into PSAs to gather that information anymore. We're not going into accounting systems to gather that information. And we're not even, in many cases, pulling a lot of that stuff from old data that's coming out of an RMM. We're going straight to source of these solutions that are being delivered and consumed by all of your end customers. Now, what do we do with that data? There is this data overload problem. I've got information in all these different systems telling me stuff what to do. The best place to go is to look at what is the most uniform point and how do I standardize that across. Now, the reason that the uniformity is important is because when we look at how we're performing, whether it's out of our accounting package, out of our PSA, and you name the business intelligence tool of the week that I'm using to do it, I'm not looking necessarily at performance that's true, for one, but two, now I'm looking at that and comparing and contrasting that against industry reports, which are all survey-based.
Right.
So there's a big grain of salt that comes into play of how am I actually performing, and am I on track or am I not? Mm-hmm. Most solutions and most systems on the market today come in a one-size-fits-all format, right? But the problem is that you're now consuming information and benchmark knowledge and suggestions and recipes for success that are completely immune to or irrespective of what geography you're in, what size of a business you are, what vertical focus you have, what your actual stack is that you're running, and on and on and on. So for you to contrast that information is very challenging when your recipe for success needs to be based off of your data. So what we would want to do is provide an MSP with an opportunity to just look at their data, truthful data, and be able to inform and advise them on how that's actually performing, and in the future be able to inform them on how they're performing against like-sized similar MSPs with similar stacks and similar categories, and be able to inform the industry that way to eradicate this need for data overload and eliminate a need for them to interpret and make their own best guesses on things.
Yeah, that's a real challenge too, with MSPs having access to so much data and being very technically savvy themselves. I've seen and talked to MSPs that have grand spreadsheets and dashboards and different data sources, and they get very excited about trying to make all this happen, spend countless hours doing so, and then never end up actually really trusting the information because the hygiene of the data isn't there, or this data set might change and this isn't here, and this doesn't really make sense in the context of this other thing. So they have spent all this time and they're just unable to actually make any real decisions based on that, right? So understanding what's true, what's important, and being able to make simple business decisions from that is something that I think they have to take better advantage of. So Colin, you touched on a few points already here, but I want to talk about something called vendor fatigue. And I remember when we had our MSP many years ago, we were feeling some of that, but I can't even imagine what an MSP today is dealing with. It's wonderful that there's so many different opportunities and different services that MSPs can use to provide to their customers. But the downside is, how are they supposed to manage and track and handle sometimes dozens of different vendors to provide these services?
It's a massive challenge, right? When you said it, when we had our MSP, I had probably 8 recurring vendors that we were really dealing with at that time. When you look at the data that we have through Synthesize today, the average MSP is reselling 17 different services to their customers. That goes upwards of 40 plus in some cases. That's a lot of different solutions to be managing, administering, vendors to be dealing with, from invoice, receipt, payment, and everything else. And then you start to look at, hey, maybe some of this market consolidation might be a good thing. And then you maybe shake your head a little bit and say, no, I want the best solutions for my clients, whatever the label or the brand name is behind it, right? And so when you look at it, it is a big problem. Again, we'll go back to Canalys that says hundreds of thousands of hardware and software vendors selling their products on a recurring basis through the channel. $5 trillion. You have dozens of different solutions as an MSP you're selling. You have to capture and pay for all of those solutions. You need to be selling and marketing all those solutions. You need to be implementing, supporting, and administering and maintaining all of those solutions. Vendor fatigue is a real thing, right? What happens, though, is you keep doing the stack on. Sometimes I'm not the strongest foundation. You go out to the next conference and you find 3 or 5 other services that you think, hey, that one won the best revenue generating opportunity, or that sounds like a total fit for what I could sell. But you can't truly quantify what the probability of that is for your business, nor have you even thought of, maybe in many cases, the amount of effort that's going to go into actually managing that solution. You look at, again, gathering all of your usage information, trying to reconcile that against whatever system you bill out of, making sure that that's all up to date. Zero automation and integration in most cases exists for that. And then on top of that, muddied reporting on, what am I paying? What am I charging? How is this bundled? Where am I making money? Where am I not? And where are my greatest opportunities, again, to be growing and succeeding with this business, and finding the smartest ways to standardize and, yes, consolidate down the number of vendors you use, but still making sure that you're delivering quality, best of breed services to your clients at a high margin of profit for your business.
Yeah. How often do you have as an MSP, have a client that has a very specific need? You rush out, you find a vendor that suits that need, you present that to them, that's fine. But then where's the opportunity to take that and actually understand how that can be applied to everything else? Sometimes that can be an orphan vendor that sits there. It might be doing that job, but to your point, you've had to train staff to be able to support that bit, or update your processes and documentation to be able to understand that. So the number of often one-time vendors that get implemented because of an immediate need is staggering sometimes.
It's a big challenge, and it is staggering. Not only do you have that situation now where, I've got something out there in the wild and I'm running it, and I have all of this administration and burden and support and staffing burden to be out there managing it. But most MSPs, when they look at their business today, they look at, is my business profitable, and how much revenue and how much profit am I generating as a business? The next area that they go down to, and pretty much where most of them stop, is how much revenue and profit am I making per client or per customer? The biggest place where these MSPs need to be looking at is by product line. Because me getting a picture of what my client is paying me and how much profit I'm making of that gives me no indication as to what's truly powering and driving that profit and revenue, and what might be actually encumbering or detracting from that, right? When I track at a per product line level, like you would as a SaaS business, as a manufacturing business of any type, you're going to track by that so that you know where to invest in behind which products for R&D or development, marketing, sales, all of that stuff. But you also need to know and see, where am I burning a lot of effort and resources in my business that's not contributing money, or that clients aren't buying? In many cases, I can uncover and find that one solution and say, this doesn't make sense for me to be selling anymore. Or is there a better vendor? Or if it does make sense for me to be selling, I need to take that out and put effort behind that service to get it out in front of more of my clients. And again, reducing the amount of projects that I'm taking on, of how many services I want to bring to market, new services I'm trying to launch, everything else. Capturing and knowing what you have in your stable or in inventory already, know the ingredients that are in your pantry, and how many meals can I cook for that, right? That's what it comes down to.
Amazing. So it seems to me almost year after year, one of the largest challenges that MSPs face is, how can I acquire new clients? And that's not surprising. It's a challenge that's been going on for some time. That just means that retaining your current customers has been more important than it ever has. What are some challenges or ways that MSPs can be thinking about making sure that that retaining of their existing clients is forefront for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what 2 industry reports now said number one challenge is acquiring new customers. But you can't grow a business by bringing customers in the front side and losing them out the back side, right? It's just the reality of business. Now, a lot of times people are surveyed and MSPs are surveyed or asked, what is your number one challenge? And I like to frame it and pose it to them sometimes a different way is, what's the number one thing that keeps you awake at night?
Right.
And anytime I have asked an MSP that, and we've talked to thousands, tens of thousands of MSPs over the last 3 years as a business here, number one answer comes back is losing my clients, the risk of losing my clients. And so it's all well and good to be looking at acquiring new customers. And there's a wealth of opportunity of coaching programs and systems and different businesses that can help you with the acquisition of new customers. What needs to be a keen focus is how you retain those. Because with the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of resellers and MSPs and IT service providers out there all vying to add new customers, that means that at any given time, you probably have at least 100 of your competitors vying to steal your exact clients, knocking on their doors. Bingo. If we go back to keeping things simple, the best way is, 1, to make sure that your clients are always aware of the value that you're delivering to them. And 2, by increasing that dependency or stickiness that your clients have on you. This goes back to platform strategy. The reason that a lot of the top platforms in the MSP space aren't losing a ton of MSP customers is because of the dependency that they have on those solutions and then the breadth of solutions that they're consuming from that single company, right? Now, you always hope that it's a good experience. And as an MSP, you are always vying to deliver the most exceptional experience possible, right? But the way that you can create more attach points, more stickiness, and more dependency of your clients on you is by making sure that you have saturated them with the solutions that they can be consuming from you. And that doesn't need to be seen as nickel and diming. You need to be value-based selling like you would to a new customer. Take that same approach to your existing customers, but armed with the information of knowing which services will perform the best for them in your stack and which ultimately are going to perform the best for you, meaning a lot more money, a lot more profit at the end of the day. Increased service deployment and saturation with your clients, and that increased adoption means increased dependency or stickiness, means increased client retention. You now have the confidence that you've maximized your wallet opportunity with each one of your clients and can now focus on acquiring new ones.
Yeah, there's also an interesting side to this too, Colin, where how terrible is it for you to lose a customer for another MSP to come in and offer a solution or a service that you already offer your other clients? You just didn't have an opportunity to sell to that, or maybe you thought they weren't ready for it, whatever the case is, right? That's the worst case scenario. So believe me, every single service that you're looking to provide, every other MSP is trying to do the same. And there's no way that you shouldn't be able to make sure that you're always the first one in their minds when it comes to that. And yeah, that's super critical.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it comes down to less about giving them all the reasons to stay and having them frame it and think about all the reasons not to leave, right? All the solutions they have to switch out, the pain and disgruntlement. Is the service actually going to be better? Is the products that that underpin the services that they deliver actually better? There's a lot of questions that comes into that. But when you look at it, you need to make sure that you are delivering the right services to your clients. Because even if you're scared thinking that every time I go and talk to you, it's about something that I'm trying to sell you, somebody else is trying to sell them that same service. And if they frame it in a way that makes a lot more sense to them, you may lose them as a client to that one business. You look at the other thing, the average cost to acquire a customer in our space is $5,000, $10,000 or more to acquire a new customer as an MSP.
Right.
What does it cost you to retain them? Really nothing. You just got to sell them more things that deliver a great service, a great experience, and make them feel better taken care of. To me, that's just simple economics.
It's just that easy.